Shalom, and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. This is a recording of a Yizkor sermon with Rabbi Rebecca Schatz.
Judaism is a religion, a culture, and a tradition of memory. We celebrate holidays that memorialize ways our people were treated, foods that symbolize our story, and rituals that remind us of practices and experiences. Yizkor is the only ceremony or service that we do multiple times throughout the year. Geshem, Tal, Kol Nidre, Ne'ilah, etc. are all only done once. But Yizkor is commemorated on Passover, Shavuot, Yom Kippur, Shmini Atzeret, and Yom HaZikaron is an entire day of Yizkor. If you were to ask 3 rabbis how they do Yizkor, you would come out with 5 different ceremonies and a multitude of psalms and songs sung. However, one thing is certain. We create space in community to conjure memories together, not alone. This year in particular, I have been thinking a lot about the power of memory through Judaism and through the fragility and blessing of remembering. One of the scariest aspects of death is, will I be remembered? And for those living and missing their loved ones, will I continue to remember them? Will I continue living when they are gone? Will I remember their smile, their smell, their funny laugh, the way they used to hug me, their recipes? We find comfort and fear in relying on memories of a loved one. Too many of us know people who lose their memory far before they are physically gone from this world. And in some ways, that is 2 deaths. The death of being able to recall a loved one, a childhood story, a member of your family standing in your doorway. And then the death of a physical body that, even if unable to recall the past, is still a vessel and memory for us of what was. Always hoping and wishing that in a moment of lucidity, there would be a gem of the past to hold on to. About a year ago, Benjamin and I visited my Saba, and as a way of engaging Saba in conversation such that he would share stories with this new member of our family, I brought out many old photo albums and asked Saba to talk about images that we were thumbing through. I knew that he would not remember everything. Many of the photos were blessedly from 80-ish years ago. And I hoped that the photos might remind him of people and feelings and places or tangential stories by seeing faces or sights again. It was better than I could have ever imagined. First of all, in a moment where I was so excited to be welcoming Benjamin into this family, he knew how important this was for me and recorded my Saba. Every second. I didn't know, and Saba didn't know, so the conversation was natural and unfiltered. However, when I found out, I cried, realizing that Benjamin had the foresight to capture memory for the future. This treasure box of stories and information that Saba shared through pictures was magical, and it made me very sad. It was incredible to hear him share aspects of his life, his love of and for my Grand Marini, their inside jokes, his triumphs and challenges in Korea during the war as a soldier, and aspects of my dad's life as a child. However, it was a reminder that nothing lasts forever. Just as the pictures are fading, his memory is too fading, and we become the vessels for legacy. These recordings, his grandchildren and great-grandchildren become living memory. Memories being shared and held onto, and at the same time so clearly fleeting and becoming lost in beautiful aging and life lived. In our own Torah, we have Moshe sharing his life story and have the documentation aside for the memory to live on. Moshe was not suffering from any memory loss, but he knew he was going to die and wanted to pass along his life's memoirs. That's how we get Deuteronomy. the recapitulation of much of our Torah from Moshe's perspective and life's vantage point. Another popular memory moment in our Torah is Amalek. We are commanded to remember Amalek and not forget what they did to our people. We are to remember in order to blot out but not forget. An intentional sort of memory to learn from and live by. This is the same reason that someone might continue to recite Kaddish or participate in Yizkor for a family member who did not treat them well. There seem to be three categories of people that I'm focused on this year when trying to grapple the beauty and the pain of memory. Someone who is getting older and naturally losing stories and aspects of their history to retell. Someone who is diagnosed with cognitive decline, such as dementia or Alzheimer's, and physically may be present but unfortunately lose the ability to recall, to remember, and to retell. And then someone who is suffering from a terminal illness, knowing that they have time to share stories and legacy, that their life is coming to its end. I've shared the first category through my grandfather, and I know we all know someone in our own families or close community who are suffering the loss of the second category. So here's an example of the third, one that I wish we all thought of more. I recently had someone close to me approach and ask if I would sit down with their loved one and hear about their life from them before they die. This is a person who knows they are sick and are beautifully celebrating life and all the moments remaining with gratitude, realistic outlook, and of course, sadness. I was asked to sit down with them because often I sit down with the loved ones after someone has died, not with the person who will die, in anticipation of the memories I could hear directly from them. The legacy I could presently gain from their wisdom. It truly made me wonder why we are not all, from the time we are old enough to comprehend our own mortality, writing down our stories. Though thank God we are not all dying from a terminal illness, we will all die and hopefully leave behind loved ones. What will they remember? What will they think of during Kaddish or during Yizkor? Judaism centers around memory. From Kiddush on Shabbat evening to Mourner's Kaddish multiple times in every service, to Parshiot and Shabbatot and services and holidays focused on remembering who we are, where we come from, and who we can be. When I studied the halachot of Shabbat in rabbinical school, one aspect blew my mind, that of intentionally doing or knowing something and unintentionally doing or knowing something. These categories are called mezid and shogeg, having different punishments and authority in the world of action associated with Jewish law. For example, if you do not know that according to the 39 melachot, you are not supposed to catch a bug on Shabbat, true story, and you caught a spider, you have less of a punishment than if you did know. In some cases, because you would be shogeg, there's no punishment at all. Now, of course, you cannot claim to have not known something you did know. That's called lying. But it does account for converts, for children, for those who grew up less from than they are now, and those who are losing their memory and legitimately do not know at any age. One who is mazid has full awareness and therefore full responsibility. One who is shogeg has partial awareness, which could mean never having known, or a lapse in memory and therefore reduced responsibility. Our tradition takes memory so seriously that our laws have different categories of responsibility around the ability to remember. I've often wondered, if she does not remember me, is it worth updating her on my life now, which she will also not remember? The answer is, of course, because it brings you joy to share it. Even if a person is in the category of shogeg, of unknowing, they are still capable of finding joy in learning and experiencing something new, whether it is truly new or just new in that moment. The joy brought or inquisitive mind that is briefly tickled is worth the sharing. Shiva is for the living, so that memories and stories are shared. And visiting someone who has long forgotten who you are might hear you play a song at the piano or share a picture of you and she as a child, and her face might light up when you call her name. That is both joy for her and memory making for you. Moses breaks the tablets, and immediately God tells him to rewrite second ones. Will they be the same? No. Will Moses remember everything he wrote in the first set? Who knows? But it is the act of continuing to try and share rather than dismiss that something was lost and forgotten. That's Yizkor, and that is Judaism. We are supposed to sit down at a Seder, at a Shabbos table, on your Sabba's couch, at the piano in their memory facility, or face-to-face with a loved one who is blessedly still living, and listen to remember. We are supposed to sip in all the memories we can so that we can pass them along. So as a people, it is our obligation to listen, and it is our obligation to share. Yizkor is done in community so that you fulfill both obligations. You are remembering, and you are sharing memories. It is sad to lose a loved one for infinite reasons. And one of the hardest to understand and grapple with is, will my memories be enough? And will they stay with me forever? Did I hear enough? Did I ask enough questions? Did I write down all of their jokes so that I can retell them? Did they make sure to explain all the ways they understand the world so I can hold them with me as I navigate the rest of my life? Passover's main mitzvot are to retell the story, to invite people in who are needy, and to rid yourself and your home of chametz, bal yireh, bal yimseh, so that you do not see it and so that you do not find it. Yizkor is the last day of Passover, and I believe it's to be the antithesis to that mitzvah. Once you put your homes back to be full of chametz, allow yourselves to see and to find all of the crumbs of loved ones that you miss or have missed. Their clothes, their cologne, their precious china, their stories, their pictures, their laugh, the voicemails they sent you that you never erased. Those crumbs are memories that you may think you've lost, but that you have to hold onto them. So see and find, and start writing. Yizkor is a reminder that life is finite, and that we will lose and we will be lost. But if our stories and legacies are passed down, we are never lost. We are just always waiting to be found.
You've been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast website or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information on Temple Beth Am, Los Angeles, please visit www.tbala.org.